Good morning, everyone. Call in order Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee, May 4th, 10 a.m. Can we please call the roll?
Chair Blagay,
Present.
Councilmember Denoga, Councilmember Olson,
Here.
Vice Chair Oriaga,
Here.
4 members present at roll call.
Okay, and today we are having our budget work section for Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. Turning it over to staff for Raina Hightower.
Yes,
Thank you.
good morning, Chair Blagay and members of the PHED committee. Today, we will be conducting a work session on the Maryland National Capital Park and Planners Administration Fund budget. The staff budget review memo is located on pages 3 through 29. The county executive's letter providing comments and recommendations on the park and planning budget can be found on pages 30 through 33. Responses to budget questions asked by staff are on pages 34 through 60. The park and planning presentation is on pages 61 through 93. I will give a overview of their budget. The administration fund is one of the 4 county tax supported funds authorized under the state of the Maryland Land Use Article to provide resources to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning. The fund supports 3 primary components: the Prince George's County Planning Board, the Prince George's County Planning Department, and Central Services, which includes human resources, and management, finance, legal department, inspector general, merit system board, and support services. The total revenue for FY 2027 is projected to be $88.02 million, an increase of 8%, which is $6.56 million over the current adopted budget. For FY 2027, the Commission proposes no changes to the personal and real property tax rate for this fund. The FY 2027 Administration Budget Fund proposes expenditures of $98.6 million, a 16% increase, which is $13.68 million over the current adopted budget. The change is due to a one-time increase in the Capital Projects Fund transfer. The proposed budget uses $10.68 million from the fund balance to cover shortfall between expenditures and expected revenues. The Commissioner's Office proposes a budget of $6.3 million, a 58% increase, which is $2.33 million over the current fiscal year, to fund 9 additional positions. Central Administrative Services budget is projected to be $28.9 million, which includes chargebacks and is an increase of 1% over the current adopted budget. The Prince George's County portion of the Central Administrative Services budget is $15.185 million. That's their proposal. The Planning Department's total FY 2027 budget request is $57.371 million, no increase, from the current adopted budget. The Planning Department personnel costs request is $36.249 million, an increase of $3 million, which is 9.3% above the current adopted budget. The proposed budget adds 18 new positions. The Planning Department still continues to struggle to utilize its current funding. 49 positions, including 19 planners as of June 30th, 2025, averaging a 98-day vacancy report, which is up from the 26 vacancies, including 18 planners, at the end of the FY 2024 budget. Unfilled positions have led to underspending on personnel services. The Planning Department non-personnel budget request is $21.12 million, a reduction of $3 million, which is 13% below the current adopted budget. The Planning Department proposes $2.6 million in administrative project charges, which are paid to the county government, which is a reduction of $7.737 million from the current budget. which eliminates one-time funding and reduces reoccurring project charges. The county executive's budget includes $9.8 million in project charge funding. The planning director's office budget reflects a $3 million increase over the adopted FY 2026 budget to support consultant services. The intake and regulatory review and development review division budgets reflect a $250,000 increase over last year's budget, and that's to support customer service and problem-solving professional development to enhance ongoing success in each division. The proposed FY 2027 budget proposes the establishment of 3 new divisions: design, placemaking, and policy, natural and cultural resources, planning, and multimodal transportation and facilities. The countywide planning division is proposed to be eliminated. The department continues to face challenges with underspending requested funding for contractual services. It consistently underspends by more than $2.5 million. The administration non-departmental budget for the commission proposes as I mentioned before, a $10 million transfer from the administration fund to the capital projects fund, primarily to fund the construction of the Watkins Regional Park Police Substation. That concludes my overview. I would like to, if it is the pleasure of the chair, to discuss that we are joined here today with Chairman Barnes, Acting Director Mr. William Spencer, their Corporate Budget Director, Ms. Terry Charles, and the Acting Planning Director, Mr. James Hunt. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now turning it over to our chairman.
Thank you very much, and good morning, members of the PHED committee. Committee Chair Blagay, Vice Chair Oriata, Council Member Denoga, and Council Member Olson. For the record, I am Darrell Barnes, Chairman of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and the Chairman of the Prince George's County Planning Board. Today, we will present more details on our proposed budget for fiscal year 2027. For Prince George's County Planning Board Office, Planning Department, and Central Administrative Services. We would like to also thank PHED Committee Director Raina Hightower and the rest of the team for their assistance. Today, we are joined by members of our leadership team, and I would like to introduce today's presenters. William Spencer, who is the Acting Executive Director. Terry Charles, who is our Corporate Budget Director. And James Hunt is our Acting Planning Director. We will present our strategic priorities for the proposed budget for fiscal year 2027. The organizational chart shown on the screen outlines our bi-county structure and agency that is led by a dynamic and diverse team of leaders. This slide shows the budget by fund for the 3 tax-supported funds, plus the enterprise fund and special revenue fund. As you are aware, the commission works in Prince George's County, is overseen by the Prince George's County Planning Board. The organizational chart before you outlines the current office of the chairman, along with new positions included in the proposed FY 27 budget. My colleagues, my fellow commissioners seen on this slide, and I provide managerial oversight for the 2 operating departments, the Planning Department and the Department of Parks and Recreation. We are responsible for developing and recommending to the County Council land use policy that provides a long-range course of action to guide the growth and development of the county. Together, with our colleagues on the Montgomery County Planning Board, we also provide oversight of the commission. The Planning Board is also charged with the administration of the county park system and comprehensive recreation programs. Since my appointment in July 2025, the office of the chairman has been operating in efficient, effective, and methodical ways. This slide provides a snapshot as of March 16th, 2026, an external interaction with residents, elected officials, community stakeholders, as well as team building and strategic planning opportunities with internal staff. Our office reported an increase in citizen and stakeholder inquiries, employment opportunities inquiries, and event location assistance. From the town of Eagle Harbor and Fort Washington to the city of Laurel, we have increased our presence and engagement with the community by participating in 200+ festivals, meetings, panel discussions, and special events. As I stated last summer, we need to do a better job of telling our story. In addition to the community events and meetings, we are utilizing digital platforms to connect with a larger and broader audience. We launched a monthly newsletter, produced videos, and increased our presence on social media and local media outlets. The Prince George's County Planning Board is proposing a budget of $6.3 million, which is increased expenditures to $2.3 million or 57.8% above FY26 approved budget. Much of this increase from my vision to strengthen accountability, transparency, and operational efficiencies across departments. The office of the chairman has operated without an increased authorized position for over 30 years. To effectively realize my vision, the chairman's office must be equipped with the resources necessary to enable it to meet rising public expectations and ensure that priorities are executed effectively and efficiently, but more importantly, transparently. Over the years, we have had to use our vacant position to fund temporary positions for various initiatives and projects for our office. Types of positions funded through the vacant position was a sustainability coordinator, special project coordinator, chief of staff, receptionist, and so on. I would now like to turn over the presentation to our acting budget director, Mr. Bill Spencer.
Thank you, Chairman Barnes. Good morning, PHED Committee Chair Legay and committee members. Out of respect for your time, I will be brief as possible. For the record, I'm Bill Spencer, Acting Executive Director for the Commission, and I would like to start my presentation by stating Central Administrative Services is requesting no new program enhancements or positions, only funding for known obligated costs, salaries, and inflation. That's it. It's a baseline budget. Terry Bako Charles, our corporate budget director, and I will be presenting the CAS budget. Central Administrative Services, or CAS for short, is the corporate administrative branch of the commission. It's composed of the Inspector General's office headed by Modupe Ogunduyole. There is also a Secretary Treasurer, Gavin Cohen, who directs the Finance Department. Deborah Borden oversees the General Counsel's office, who could not be here, as well as our Chief Information Officer, Mazen Chalet, who's not here, but who also reports to me. All of those directors that are present are available to answer any pertinent questions in their respective areas. Next slide, please. This chart represents some of the core areas in CAS, which serves as the backbone of the commission. We oversee all corporate-wide finance and budget, procurement and supply diversity, independent audit functions for fraud, waste, and abuse, legal compliance, litigation, land use, policies, cybersecurity, and IT automation, and human resources management. You are all aware of the Commission's 6 gold medals for Parks and Recreation, but you may not know that our Finance Department received for the 52nd consecutive year the Distinguished Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement of Excellence. And our Budget Office received for the 40th consecutive year the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association as well. Those national awards attest to our strong financial stewardship and our fiscal transparency. Next slide, please. Moving on to priority focus, we align our priority focus and budget based on the needs and goals of the Parks and Recreation Department and Planning Department. Our priority focus for FY27 will be transforming the commission information systems, amplifying recruitment and retention and succession planning, and elevating our economic and community impact through diverse business promotion and strong financial stewardship. So annually, each August, as we did for FY27, we meet with commission departments to discuss the needs going forward in order to right-size our budget. This year, as like last year, we're requesting no new positions, as I stated before, or additional resources. With regards to strong financial stewardship, it remains a commission priority, particularly with the appreciated and watchful eye of Councilmember Denoga. He has always provided thoughtful fiscal observations and regarding the 6-year outlook and the management cost drivers and undesignated fund balance. Terry Baker Charles, our budget director, can expand on that at the appropriate time if needed. Next slide. As fiduciaries of public funds and a repository of personal identifiable data, we have a focus on the physical and virtual identifiable data, and the physical and virtual cybersecurity of our resources. We have begun a highly anticipated commission-wide project to radically transform and update our enterprise resource planning system, which we refer as ERP. Our ERP system is designed to integrate multiple functions such as finance, human resources, supply chain management, procurement, asset management, project management, program data analytics, budgeting, and all other reportings in a single platform. This integration ensures data consistency, reduces duplication of effort, and improves decision-making by providing a single consistent data stream along with dashboards for our departments. The result is an organization that's even more data-driven than ever before. Beyond cybersecurity technology, we will continue to maintain focus on the people aspect of data security, which is the other prong to ensure safe and secure systems outside of technical solutions. Specifically, we have a robust mandatory training program that we will continue in FY27, where all employees are required to take 8 to 10 IT security training modules each quarter. At the completion of each module, they are tested to ensure comprehension. We have a 100% completion rate of this training. Next slide. Another area of focus is recruitment, retention, and succession planning. Staff is continually expanding our community-based outreach approach by focusing on recruitment partnerships with colleges, civic organizations to deepen our local hiring pipelines. Over the past 3 years, we have aggressively increased our applicant flow by 72%. That is, in FY23, we had 40,000 applicants applied to the commission. In FY25, we had nearly 70,000. And that was accomplished by reaching out to applicants through community job fairs, social media, et cetera. Concurrently, we are enhancing our internal pipeline by identifying and developing our existing talent pool through our newly created Impact Academy. The Impact Academy has 3 distinct cohort tracks to support existing staff through their professional journey. The first track is for those identified employees who are aspiring to become managers. The second is for those who are managers, and the third are for those employees who are aspiring to become part of executive leadership. We provide self-paced and interactive instructor-led environments and curated training to build the needed competencies. In addition to our traditional apprenticeship programs like HVAC, plumbing, and mechanics, we are beginning to partnership with Prince George's Community College for a locksmith apprenticeship program that was recently approved by the Department of Maryland Labor. We are also seeking to expand into information technology and horticulture, which complements the great work that the Prince George's Planning Department and Parks and Recreation Departments are doing with their professional internship programs through the University of Maryland and through Maryland HCBUs. Next slide. Here I want to note that through our purchasing supply diversity programs, the Commission fosters economic growth and enhances community well-being. And our numbers tell the story. During fiscal year 2025, the Commission spent $45.6 million with businesses in Prince George's County, of which $14.8 million was spent with disadvantaged businesses in the county. In FY '26, we are on track to exceed these numbers. Through just the first 6 months of the current fiscal year, the Commission has spent $33.8 million with businesses in Prince George's, and $26.4 million was spent with disadvantaged businesses in Prince George's County. Now, as I stated, last year we spent 14.8 for the entire year for disadvantaged. In just 6 months, we spent 26. That's a 79% increase in just a half a year. And we have not finished the numbers for this current year yet. But so far, we've exceeded our last year total by 79% within the first 6 months. The Commission has increased outreach to businesses to identify their needs and to inform them about our operations, procurement, and how to work with us. We're also increasing vendor engagement through our targeted focus fairs. These fairs allow vendors to showcase their offerings and expertise to Commission buyers. The first of these fairs were held on March 25th at Showplace Arena. The targeted vendor categories are varied, ranging from performing arts to sports, live entertainment, visual arts, etc. And finally, next chart. Finally, this chart provides some insight to some of the outstanding work performed by CAS. As you can see, CAS Finance Department issued over 7,000 W-2s, over 137,000 checks were issued. Our HR benefits office had over 22,000 benefit enrollments, and our legal department, 23 legal case, and I could go on and on and on. But in closing, I just want to repeat that our budget presents no budget enhancements, just a baseline budget for inflation, known obligated costs, and salaries. And now I want to turn to Terry Bako Charles, our corporate budget director, who will now walk you through our budget.
Next slide, please. Again, for the record, Terry Charles, Corporate Budget Office. To wrap up the Central Administrative Services budget for FY '27, as shown here in the aggregate, and which has been stated before, we have requested a 1% increase totaling $28.9 million. Prince George's County share is nearly $15.2 million, which in a year-over-year comparison is an increase of just shy of $99,000 or 0.7%. Also, you can see here, this overall modest increase varies at the by-county department level. The highest increase shown here at 11.8% or nearly $21,000 is for the Merit Board, our smallest office. And the request simply again just reflects the base adjustment for the new panel members who selected benefit coverage. The Prince George's County share of this is $10,381. The largest department, Human Resources and Management, is requesting a 1.9% increase, up about $186,000. And again, it just simply reflects base adjustments for personnel costs related to benefits and annualization of the FY '26 merit and COLA. And the Prince George's share of this is $36,532. The next one I will point out is the Office of Inspector General. It's up 5.7%. Again, it reflects base personnel adjustment, but it includes one-time funds for the provisioning of a peer review that is scheduled to occur in FY '27. And then our corporate IT is up 6.5% or nearly $260,000. Again, it reflects base adjustments, but it also includes the anticipated inflationary increases for computer equipment, user licenses, software, and hardware maintenance support. And the Prince George's County share of this is $121,207. That completes the review of the Central Administrative Services budget, and I will turn it over to Director Hunt, who will share the planning's FY27 budget requests.
All right, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I'm James Hunt, Acting Planning Director here with the Prince George's Planning Department. Next slide. Our mission within the Planning Department is to promote economic vitality, environmental sustainability, design excellence, and quality development that promotes healthy lifestyles throughout our neighborhoods in Prince George's County. Next slide. Over the recent years, as you all may well know, we have won 8 both state and national awards, such as the National Association of Counties, the Achievement Award for the Neighborhood Planning Academy. In 2024, we had many awards related to the Apex Communications for the Neighborhood Planning Academy, as well as other awards related to the with the Apex Communications for American Planning Association conferences, in addition to the Apex Communications for the Accokeek Heritage Tourism Study and others. Next slide. In addition to all these FY26 initiatives that you see here on the slide, the Planning Department has been working to address the various planning needs that have been mentioned by the County Council, County Executive, as well as the citizens of Prince George's County. As the new Planning Director, I have a vision and a new focus for the Planning Department, which I will discuss momentarily. However, one of those focus elements that I have is to implement the vision and streamlining the process to get shovels in the ground and cranes in the sky. We have identified 300 entitlement applications that received approval from the Planning Department, as well as the Planning Board. We want to make Prince George's County a destination for the nation. As a part of this process, we are working with those applicants to identify what resources are necessary to move some of those applications to get to done and implementing that vision. As a part of FY26, the County Executive has established a permit rapid response team to help facilitate certain projects through the entitlement and zoning processes. By doing so, we have all seen the benefits to the county. To maintain this service level, we are in need of resources dedicated to this program and are looking to have funding under the FY27 budget to maintain this level of service. Again, by having this program, we have all been working together to elevate Prince George's County. Lastly, we're working on building and expanding our food systems planning program. My expectation is to leverage the existing agricultural community of Prince George's County so they support areas of the county that need fresh fruits, vegetables, and proteins. In addition, our areas of the county can support the agricultural community as well as through supporting agritourism and education. We're going to begin doing some innovative things to elevate Prince George's County. Just like the executive says, we're fully and truly one county united. Next slide. In fiscal year 2025, the Prince George's County Planning Department continued to deliver a significant volume of core planning services that supported the development review, long-range planning, and community engagement across Prince George's County. The department processed and reviewed hundreds of development applications, including preliminary plans of subdivisions, detailed site plans, permits, and various zoning cases, while also advancing master plan updates, planning studies, and policy initiatives that guide future growth. In addition, staff conducted extensive interagency coordination, community outreach meetings, and technical analyses to ensure development proposals aligned with county policies and infrastructure capacity. Furthermore, our team added almost 3,000 data points and completed over 30,000 citizen requests for GIS data. Lastly, we recorded almost 300,000 PG Atlas users, which says our resources are being used and heavily depended on throughout Prince George's County. Collectively, these performance tasks demonstrate the department's critical role in managing growth, supporting economic investment, and implementing the county's long-term planning vision. Next slide. For fiscal year 2027, under my leadership, the Planning Department will focus on these 5 areas. Together, these priorities will position the Planning Department to deliver responsive, efficient, and forward-thinking planning services that support the county's evolving needs. As we proceed into FY27, we're expecting to begin working on an update to our general plan, which will be called Plan 2050. In doing so, that will take resources, which the Planning Department's proposed budget includes. An updated general plan is essential because it provides the long-term policy framework that guides how the county grows, invests, and serves its residents. This is our priority to align how we grow with the next generation. It will establish a clear vision for land use, housing, transportation, economic development, and environmental stewardship. It ensures that public and private investments align with county priorities, elevates infrastructure planning, and helps guide zoning and development decisions. An updated plan also allows the county to respond to changing population trends, market conditions, and community needs while strengthening competitiveness within the Washington metropolitan region. Ultimately, maintaining a current general plan promotes orderly growth, fiscal sustainability, and equitable development, ensuring that future development supports the county's long-term economic vitality and quality of life. In addition to Plan 2050, we'll need to begin working on planning efforts for the 2030 census. The Prince George's County Planning Department supports the census by coordinating outreach, promoting community participation, and analyzing census data to inform planning and policy decisions. The department works with local partners to encourage a complete count, helps identify hard-to-reach populations, and uses census data to guide land use planning, housing strategies, transportation planning, and economic development initiatives. Accurate census data helps us to ensure the county receives its fair share of federal and state funding and provides a reliable foundation for long-range planning and public investment. Staff will be needed to support this effort for the county so we can get the funding we need to support our community. In particular, we are very proud that we are able to advocate for needed funding for Suitland as a part of the Suitland Cultural Arts implementation. Recently, Chairman Barnes, Director Stanton, and I were all in Annapolis advocating with both state delegates and senators. So far, we've been able to secure $1 million in funding for Suitland, and we are continuing to advocate for even more funding. We know we have an extremely vibrant community that has an employment anchor, significant population density, and existing infrastructure. We have heard the call of our citizens, and we are working with our partners to further provide for this community and other communities, both inside and outside the Beltway through our food systems planning program, so our county can have an innovative program that supports both underserved areas of the county in need of fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as our growing agricultural community through various food systems planning measures. We're also looking to further stand up an urban design studio. We've listened to the citizens also and the county executive, as well as yourselves regarding comments on urban architectural design. Under the FY27 budget, we are proposing to further stand up an urban design studio where our team will work closely together directly with applicants to make recommendations through the development review process, the master and sector plans that we have, and impromptu urban design recommendations as the county executive and applicants work to bring large developments to Prince George's County. We need a team of staff to support those efforts and requests as the county executive, and all of us continue to elevate Prince George's County into a true destination for the nation. Next slide. So as you can see on this slide, we are not proposing a budget increase. We are requesting to maintain the budget of $57.4 million. In addition to the increase of the position and work years that we're requesting for 18 positions to be able to support those various efforts that we have seen and also are continuing to see throughout the growth of Prince George's County. The Planning Department looks forward to meeting with the Committee of the Whole to present our FY27 proposed budget in the coming days. Thank you.
This concludes our presentation for FY27 budget for the Prince George's County Planning Board, Planning Department, and Central Service Administrative Services. Again, we want to take the opportunity to thank you for allowing us to present our presentation. We look forward to collaborating with the county executive and the county council on our mission to provide an award-winning services to the residents of Prince George's County. And we are here to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive presentation. I'm turning it over to my colleagues. If my colleagues have any questions, starting with Councilmember Olson.
Thank you very much. A couple of questions about, I'm looking at the county executive's letter here, April 1st letter. And I'm a little bit unclear on what all this means. So in the county executive's letter, she says, she recommends the commission restore the 5.5 million decrease to project charges, and this is around the county zoning enforcement, DPI permits, inspections, and DPWT engineering inspections and permits, as well as the PGC CTV. So last year, the CTV was funded in, at least in part, through a charge through the commission. Where in the budget are these this year? I mean, I see the county executive's letter here, which I think means recommending the county take these on, but I'm not sure if that's the case or not. So where are they on in the budget, the park and planning budget? Are they in or out?
I can, well, in the absence of having the letter with the listed ones,
Okay.
PGCTV, that 700,000 is contained within the commissioner's office. So that one is in our current FY
That is
27.
in the budget.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Now, as the acting director of planning indicated, there were some that were previously in the budget. For example, I think one of the ones you're probably referring to is the zoning enforcement
Right.
unit. In the current year, FY 26, there's 2 million. For the planning department, and trying to maintain an even budget did reduce that amount. I think the director can speak to
Zoning
the
enforcement.
thinking
That's
behind
zoning enforcement
zoning enforcement.
is decreased by how much?
2 million to nothing.
Okay.
Using another example, for example, the Economic Development Corporation, that one is no change. The 65,000 that is in the current year is provided in the budget. But another one, DPI permits and inspection. In the current year, that's 1.876,200. In our proposed, it's 376,200. So, and again, the director will speak further to this, but what was the intention was to go back to FY 25 levels. So in most of the instances here, what you see is a return to FY 25's amount. And what was increased in FY 26 was seen as a one-time increase that was put forth. But again, we have the willingness and put within the FY 27, the FY 27 to FY 25 amount. And so I'll pause and let the director speak to the few instances where it may have been completely zeroed out. But generally speaking, FY 25 was the baseline that was used in FY 27, and the PGCTV is in the commissioner's office.
Okay.
And the tax collection amount is also within the FY 27 and non-departmental. So no reduction there.
Yes, and the Director Charles is absolutely correct. It seems like in her proposed budget, she was requesting to go back to the FY 25 amounts. And so we do see a decrease to the 25 before. But yeah, the zoning enforcement unit, like you were saying, is a little over $2 million, being a reduction there from 26 to 27. And then DPI permits and inspections, about $1.5 million being reduced. $2 million from DPW&T engineering, inspections, and permits. $700,000 that was being reduced from what's showing in here from CTV. And then the county council administrative, $925,000. And then a reduction from economic development of $1 million. So the amount is being proposed by the county executive's office there. Those are those amounts there.
Yes, so the CTV is what it was in FY 26 budget, but the others have been reduced to the 2025, FY 25 budget.
And
Right, so-
the tax collection as well is at the FY 26 level.
The tax collection. I'm sorry, what do you mean by the tax collection?
The tax collection fee of 574,500.
So-
You asked about that. I just was
Yeah.
making you aware that that one is at the FY 26
FY
level.
26, okay, I'm sorry, all right, got it. Okay, I'm so sorry, I'm just making notes here. Okay, so, okay, that's, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry. All right, next one is Councilmember Tanoga.
So just to follow up on that point, you're proposing going back to FY '25. Now, I'm assuming that in FY '26, whichever county executive we had at the time, I've lost track, wanted to get assistance with the county budget situation. Is that why they moved more money from the county budget into park and planning? You can correct.
What I will say is I do believe that that was part of the thinking in the upward adjustments, as well as there was discussions with regard to, if you will, updating the value of the services that are connected. But what I will say is that I think there were ongoing conversations as to whether those upwardly adjusted numbers have been validated to our satisfaction.
As I recall, that there was a question at the time as to whether the numbers being used prior to 25 or up to 25 were consistent with the county's actual expenditures. So my next question would be, you've proposed moving it back to 25, but it doesn't sound like, reading this letter, doesn't sound like there was coordination with the county executive to get agreement on that.
There were no discussions with regard to
Okay, so if we
to
approve
that.
this, then the Brakewood administration needs to accommodate $7.5 million worth of budget costs.
Yeah.
Because this stuff has to be done by somebody.
That's correct. So
yeah.
if I may, I believe that the items that were listed that Councilmember Olson read out are part of the changes that were listed within the planning department. As it relates to CTV was,
Don't care about CTV. I mean, I do care, but not
I
in
understand
this
what you're saying.
discussion.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out, okay, so in 25, Park and Planning took on more of these administrative costs that are arguably zoning related. At this point, you'd like to offload those costs back to the county. So my question seems, it's not even really a question at this point. So obviously, since someone has to pay for it, if we approve this, we're basically approving roughly $8 million being added to the county budget that the county exec has not agreed to take on. Ms. Hightower?
I believe that is correct, Councilmember Denoga.
All right.
Yes,
It seemed obvious, but I just wanted to be clear.
they wanted the funding, from what I understand, restored back, if that answers your question.
Now, help me out with this. I know you know the answer, because I asked this question a few months ago. Last year, or this current fiscal year, I'm not sure which fiscal year we're in, the actual revenues that were estimated were underestimated, so there was additional revenue that went into fund balance. Either last fiscal year, I guess last fiscal year, and you wouldn't be projecting it for this current fiscal year. We had this discussion when I came over to the meeting because I noticed that the projected expiration of the fund balance had extended out another 2 years, which mathematically means that there were more revenues than expenses, or more revenues than were anticipated. So looking at, how much was that?
I think you're referencing the fact that though we had anticipated drawing down 30 million in fund balance, that in fact, because of both the combination of revenues exceeding budgeted performance and expenses being lower, we actually only had to draw down 10 million. So
Okay, so the expenses being lower had to do with unfilled positions in part.
correct.
Okay, so then I would anticipate, since this is an annual thing, that because you're conservative, that there's probably play in this year's budget that could accommodate at least some of this project charges, if not all of it.
To if you're asking, does the trend continue? The expectation is that the trend will continue. So in the current year, we will likely finish out the current year adding to fund balance in the range of 5 to 7 million.
Okay, just get the math straight. I have a question. I really appreciated your comments about coordinating the ag programs or the ag community with restaurants or schools. So this is my last year to complain. Lucky for you guys. But I've been raising for, is Kyle here? I've been raising for 20-some years. The park and planning has all this agricultural land that it takes in, and only a fraction of it is used by local county farmers. And I will acknowledge and thank whoever I should thank that the park and planning has incorporated more of that land into the, or not incorporated more, but provided more of that land for the public to use, or young farmers, et cetera. But I would estimate that there's a lot more land that park and planning has that somebody could be doing something with. And we've had this discussion. I'm not sure whether it's been with you, because a lot of this is, I'm not sure it's parks, but in any event, lots and lots of acres are being rented for $40 or $50 an acre for a long term, which makes no sense. None. So if we want to do what you're saying, or if you want to accomplish what you're saying, what are you going to do? And this might be directed to you, Chair. And this is not like a gotcha or anything. This is like, what's your plan to get more land in the hands of young farmers, and particularly young minority farmers? Because that's been the pitch I've been making for 20-some years. Let's be clear, the farming community, not entirely, there's been a lot of black farmers over the years, but it's mostly a white farming community. And there's a lot of, it's very hard to find land that you can afford because you're competing with data centers, developers, solar farms. So what is your plan to get more land in the hands of minority farmers?
Sure, I'm gonna let James expound on that, but I think you will be pleasantly surprised of the conversations that he and the department have been having with the Secretary of Agriculture, his plan on implementation of the ag program to increase the opportunities for fresh fruits and vegetables for those that reside in Prince George's County. So I'm gonna let James expound on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our food systems planners that are on staff, and they've been coordinating very closely with the University of Maryland Ag Extension Program, the Soil Conservation District, and others. We actually took a tour with that team last year to kind of reach out to get to the community, understand those needs that you're talking about. And so what we're looking to do is we're actually working through those different aspects right now to identify what our program will look like. But the intent definitely will be to extend that out. That concern which you raised actually was a major concern for the team. And so they're working through right now to develop this entire work program template that will incorporate that and be able to address that in Prince George's County, because there was a huge need for a lot of the farmers in the community because they didn't have the land. They could not find it. Even in the rural areas of the county, the land wasn't available. And so how do we leverage that? And we've been coordinating with the Department of Parks and Recreation. We're going to continue to coordinate with them on what that looks like throughout the development process, and legally what we can and can't do on this side to be able to set up and stand up a great program. I think it's an opportunity for Prince George's County because no one else is really doing this. No one else does not have this program. So we're really excited to be able to do this. We're going to stand this up. But at this point in time, we're going to work through getting the template together, the work program. We pulled all the necessary stakeholders together to address this issue. But that is a major part of our request moving forward.
Well, hopefully it'll be a part of my legacy of having been around here for so long, because I've been beating this horse forever. But maybe this is not, maybe there's a legal impediment to this, but one of the things that I've argued for Park and Plan to do, you get land from the state for open space and other things, or you buy land from farmers that are going out. Why don't you do a two-part thing? Sell it to people, but sell it with an ag easement, so that it, if you sell it, then they might flip it, obviously. So you can't do that. But I don't know what the limitations are when you're acquisition, what you can and can't do it. But you could also do long-term leases. But why not sell it so these people own something and they have an ag preservation easement on it, because we have ag preservation easements, and move from there. Anyway,
I think just to answer your question, I think since I've been here and working with Director Hunt, we have taken a more deliberate focus on the ag program.
Great.
So listening to what you're saying is something else that we would take under advisement to see what's doable or not. Because listen, at the end of the day, my concern is the same as you all's when we start talking about fresh fruits and vegetables and healthy living and healthy lifestyles for the residents of Prince George's County. And it's something that we have been deliberate or intentional on our focus. So even with that, in talking to the Secretary of Agriculture about creating a butcher shop here in Prince George's County, and looking at all of these things holistically is at the forefront of the planning department, along with our director for Parks and Recreation.
Okay, one other question, but I think I'm pretty sure I raised this previously, so maybe I'm just going to follow up on it. But in dealing with the state over the housing issues, one of the things that the chair and I were constantly fighting with the state, the housing folks about, was they wanted to count housing units that were built, and we wanted to count housing units that were planned. And the delta between those two is huge. It's like 50%. So the question, I forget which setting, I'm pretty sure I asked this question, it was a task, maybe Katina remembers. Can parking planning, or would parking planning go back and look? If we have something like 60,000 or 70,000 housing units approved, but in the last number of years, but there's only like 30-some thousand built, there's a gap of 30, I think you guys had, you get 49,000 or something on your website back in like 2024. Why? We need to know why, because these, if we've done what we can do, and you've done what you can do and approve them, and people aren't building them, okay, and we're getting this huge backlog of units in the pipeline. So we need somebody, and you would seem to be the best folks positioned to do it, to go to the owners of these unbuilt projects and say, why are you not building? Now, I understand it's a phase project, and obviously it's phased. Okay, got that. That's not complicated. But what about, there's just tens and tens of thousands of units not getting built. And the state's looking at us and saying, you're not doing enough effort to provide housing. So do you have any, do you have an answer at this point? Or?
Absolutely. I can kind of talk preliminary on to that. The chairman reached out to us and tasked the planning department to identify the number of entitlements that have been approved by the planning board since 2023 is what you requested. And so we came up with 395. And those numbers that you're talking about are wrapped up into that number. Now, the next stage at this point, which is what our staff is really looking at doing, is reaching out to each one of those developers and saying, okay, what's the where are you in the process? What's the problem? What's the holdup? Some of the things that we've encountered are there's a funding issue that's out there. There are issues with the process itself. So, and then we're digging in a little bit more regarding the process. What is the concern with the process? Is it on the permitting side? Is it the concerns with the, where you're doing, what are the bank, whatever it is? We'll identify what that is so we can work with you. I know there's some things internally that we're going to coordinate with the county executive's office on, because she's realized and made clear that she wants to help support this and to get cranes in the air and shovels in the ground on a lot of these different efforts. Is it related to impact fees? What are the different things that are out there? So we're going to identify what they are to see as it relates to some improvements to our development review process, and coordinate with the Department of Permitting, Inspections and Enforcement, WSSC, whomever else in the process, to kind of streamline it so we can reduce those impediments so we can get those developments moving and to get the development that we need in the housing.
And now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure I probably sent you an email asking this question. I prefer, with your approval, going back prior to 23, because frankly, back then there was actually more units being approved each year. It kind of tailed off the last couple of years, probably due to the economic environment. But so we have a lot less units being approved. The data, I mean, you guys gave me the data, which I appreciate. It went back to 2010, and I looked at stuff in 2015 over like a 10-year period, 15 to 25. But if you just go back at least somewhat further, if at all possible, because if there's something that was approved in 2018 or 2019 that's not gotten built, why?
Yeah. So one of the things, council member, that since I've been here, is one of the things that I take very seriously is that I've told staff that every week we have a planning board meeting, and every week I'm approving cases, but yet I don't see a crane in the air or a shovel in the ground. So, which is a problem for me. So part of that is the uncovering of the 395 entitlements, but more importantly, James Hunt and his team have brought in some interns that are really digging down into what is the problem. Because for me, I need to understand what is the problem, why we're not moving forward with these projects, so we can figure out how we can be helpful. A lot of what we are uncovering is the fact of funding. A lot of it now is through the Trump administration and causing tariffs, which means the products of goods and services are a lot higher. And some of it is the zoning and permitting process that has caused some of the
Well,
bottlenecks.
the zoning is not an issue here because we're talking about things that have been approved.
Right,
Because, and the Trump administration is definitely a problem for a lot of things, including this.
yeah.
But a lot of this predates the Trump administration. But I'll just leave it at that. I did want to ask one last question. Some years, you have three taxes, three tax funds. In some years, there's an adjustment between the tax funds. So the overall rate stays the same, but the number switches depending on which fund you guys think needs more money. So you don't see any need to make any adjustments. I guess the reason I'm asking that, if we're creating more of a fund balance in one fund, there's more money coming in than being spent by a large number, but not in one of the other funds, should we adjust in any way? I mean, I know we're talking like fraction of a percent. It's like, I've seen it like over the years, like a 0.2 or 0.3% change between funds. Is there any thought, has anybody looking at that? Any thought about that?
As you're referring to, it's been a while since that kind of tax rate adjustment between the funds
I've been around a while.
has been done. But it would be something that would be for consideration as we move forward. You're again, your conversations helped inform the fact that we decided to use 10 million in fund balance for that police headquarters at Walker Mill, just in recognition of the fact that we know that one fund is better situated than the other two funds. So yes, it is definitely part of the equation as we continue to plan and move forward, would be thinking about the adjustment of the tax rate in the manner you're suggesting as well.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair.
Councilwoman Adam Stafford.
One second, I just want to make sure I get my last question down. Okay, hopefully it'll come to me. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for your presentation. I wanted to see if you could tell me a bit more about the new positions that you're adding and what skill gaps are you hoping and that they will fill in terms of planning staff? And then my second question is around the implementation component of your 5-part program. Director Hunt, if you could talk a bit more about that and sort of the district level impact you anticipate that will have, because that's a big concern of mine.
Well, so repeat the question again, I'm sorry.
Yes, so with the new positions, what skill gaps are you hoping that they will fill, the new
In the chairman's office or the planning department?
in the planning department?
Oh, okay. Apologies. All right. Again, for the record, James Hunt, Acting Planning Director. Some of the skill gaps that we're looking at are related to support when it comes to human resources, as well as fiscal and procurement within the office as well. And other areas as well, we're talking about the urban design studio, standing that studio up and be able to kind of leverage our efforts there with architectural design and urban design, so we can continue to be the leader when it comes to planning services and urban design throughout Prince George's County. Also to help streamline, because a lot of the things that the county executive has recently initiated under her administration regarding the permit rapid response team, which has been very effective. But in order to maintain that level of service, we're going to have the staff to be able to support that. And we're seeing a lot of great success with that program. We want to be able to also continue to look at, and a little bit later on, I think later this month, we're going to come up with, there'll be a white paper that's going to be produced where we're going to really talk about streamlining the development process and what does that look like, which will entail a lot of the efforts related to further coordination, early coordination with all of our partner agencies such as DPI, WSSC, SCD, all those agencies in the process, and coordinating with them earlier on. So we, in essence, will get the comments to applicants sooner. So while they're in the process in a shorter period of time, and they can get their reviews much faster, or sorry, their comments and hopefully approvals much faster. In addition to being able to coordinate with all those various agencies in our efforts, hopefully to be able to reduce some of the things related to when let's say an entitlement is actually needed. For example, one of the efforts I think that Chair Oyata was championing here was regarding the daycare center legislation. That's an effort that we could look at as a part of, kind of reducing those entitlement requirements. So I think beforehand we required, the county required special exceptions. So now under that piece of legislation, it would not necessarily require that. So identifying where in the process we can actually cut time and to be able to provide that, those efforts for area, associate those areas for more of those where it really needs to have a review and have council kind of feed and provide their feedback and comment and review and approval on. So identify what those are. So all these various areas, and also to be able to maintain the level of service that we have, because the staff is kind of stressed at the point as far as the amount of workloads coming in.
Thank you. And with that white paper, will it have some recommendations and an action plan in terms of how to implement the suggestions?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So we're looking at right now, identifying what those items are, making recommendations. There's an existing task force that the county council, as you're all aware,
Yeah.
they're going to provide that to them as well, so they can have that as a part of a resource that they'll use as a part of their process.
Great. And then my question around the implementation focus of your work in the planning department. I think we've spoken before about district level support to move projects forward. And so will there be someone assigned per district to help with the implementation of master plans?
Absolutely. So in every councilmanic district, we've actually divided them down into what we call planning areas. So there's a planner for each one of those districts, or multiple planners for each one of those districts, in addition to all the supervisors and management staff and the team there as well. So we've got that in place at this point in time. Now, the next step would definitely be to reach out to those council members to see exactly what they're looking for, so we meet the needs of those council members in their district and the constituents as well.
Okay. And they'll be doing cross-agency coordination to help do the implementation in the master plan.
Absolutely. So that's the intent of between the Urban Design Studio and our community planning division.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, and just generally with the underspending with the contractual services, what do you think accounts for that, Chairman Barnes? Just or anyone can answer that. The underspending with the contractual services, which was I think it was underspent by 2.5 million. Just given what you've observed, why do you think that was in recent years?
So what I've observed is sometimes those, let's say the studies, things like that, get pushed out a little bit more. There's a lot more research, additional changes to take place as far as requests. So it kind of pushes those out. There have been requests for additional funding for other things as well that had to be reallocated. So things got moved around, priorities got changed. So what we're looking to do right now is to be able to level set that under this FY27 budget. My intent is to get things done. I'm tired of seeing things sitting on the books. I want things done. I want to see change in Prince George's County, and that's what we're looking to do under this FY27 budget, to get the staff on board, to get things moving. So the constituents and throughout Prince George's County are going to see some movement in their communities at this point. That's the intent.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing I feel like I've observed in my master plans, and some of them are so dated, but I don't really see the connection to the EDC and the Revenue Authority and those groups within the implementation grid. And so I'm not sure if that layer can be added as we're working with this staff member in order for us to implement them, because I think that they're such a crucial component to the discussion that we really can't move forward unless we have them at the table as well.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I was going to just say, you're spot on. And I think with the leadership of the county executive and her DCAO, Tracy Benjamin. We have been meeting now on a weekly basis. Myself, EDC, and other economic development leaders within the government, we all meet on a weekly basis now to have those conversations to chart the course on the movement and the progress of development in the county. We are having more conversations now on the land that's available, the companies and organizations that are looking to move into Prince George's County, the coordination between all of those things, I think are, to James's point, is now at a heightened level that we're trying to see more movement and more development in the county. So I'm excited about that. And I think, with the upcoming trip to ICSC, there is a coordinated plan now on what resources and what businesses that we're trying to attract and to bring back to the county. And I think that Tracy and Ingrid, who is the president and CEO of EDC, has had conversations with each county council member to find out their wants, dreams, and desires, that we're working now to put that together so you can start to see a more concentrated effort on the master plan and the sub-region plans.
Yes, I feel like in just my time being here, my work is really, I've been reaching out to a lot of landowners and property owners, and with the help of park and planning. And so, I think that having the council member as part of that discussion and the property owner as well can help us to accelerate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll go last. Thank you for your presentation. I want to circle back to something brought up by my vice chair around the letter from the county executive. And from last year during budget, the numbers had not been reassessed to Councilmember Denoga's point, the value of those services in a very long time that the county was providing. And so those numbers were reassessed and by our former director of OMB, Stanley Early, and those were the numbers that were put into the budget. So I'm just curious if there was no conversation with the county executive. Where did the notion come that it was a one-time increase?
So the conversation is surrounded by, I think, $5.5 million tied to 3 of the project charges: the zoning enforcement unit, the DPI 1, and the DPWT. Now, again, I wasn't involved in the conversation. However, I know that the former director was engaging with each one of those entities that are listed, and that there had not been reached the comfort level with regard to the increased amount that was being assessed. So
is it fair to say that it wasn't then a proposed one-time increase then? It was more so that you all didn't want to pay the increase, not that there was an assumption it was a one-time increase.
Okay, I can say that it was one time in the sense that we were not brought into the conversation prior to. And so the increase was given to us at the approval point of the budget last year. So there wasn't the discussion to let us know that there was this consideration, if you will. So we reacted at that point to the increase. And so we're thinking that, okay, it's one time, but we will engage in these conversations to see if an agreement could be determined as to the appropriate valuing of it. And there was no conclusion to those conversations. So again, it was in recognition of the fact that we know that the support is needed, that we made in our putting our proposal together for FY27. We went back to the FY25 number, recognizing that the increase is something that, again, needs to continue to have discussion to arrive at what would be the appropriate level of support, ongoing support.
More of a function question then, just to understand the process. So with is it your understanding, though, that the budget that's passed to the council is the budget, or it's something that has to be, I guess, because what I'm hearing is that you're saying that the issue or concern was that you all didn't agree with the number. Therefore,
We don't know if we agree with the number because we weren't involved in a conversation to our level of satisfaction that would support the increase that was embedded in the FY approved budget. But of course, an approved budget is just that, an approved budget.
so the approved budget is the
So
approved
we're
budget.
going, exactly, we're going to stick to that, and that is why, and the FY '26 approved budget, the amounts that were approved will be provided in the manner that they're supposed to be provided in. But again, when we went to put together our expectations for FY '27, conversations were had, but again, I don't know that we had the comfort level yet to say, but we didn't want to zero it out or otherwise. So we said, again, it would be appropriate to put in where we were comfortable at, which was the FY '25 level, and engage in further conversations.
And so when the presentation was done for the county executive and her team, did you guys let her know that the proposed budget would have the decrease in it?
The same presentation that was provided today and provided in the individual meetings with council members was had at the county executive meeting as well.
And she was made aware at that time that you were proposing cuts to her budget?
It was part of the presentation, yes. And the notion of the planning board having a no increase budget. It was indicated at that point in time that we were making that exchange, if you will, restoring the use of those funds for our purposes to support the increase and the functionality needed for FY '27 in the planning department.
Would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah. So listen, let me just say that I think I was made aware of the letter that Councilmember Olson shared with the numbers that were iterated in his comments. When we did our budget to the county executive and to all of you, it's the same presentation that we have given throughout this entire time. One of the things or the conversations that I had maybe 2 weeks ago with the county executive and her deputy chief of staff was in regards to those items within her budget. That I said that there are some things in there that we have absorbed in our budget because some of those things were project charges that we would absorb. And it's things in there that I need to share with my planning department because some of those things are already absorbed as well. So I think part of the conversation or negotiation, if you will, is to look at those things objectively to see where they are so we can make sure that we create a win on both sides of the aisle.
And I'll say during the last budget negotiation, just because I served as vice chair last year, that those things were discussed with the last chairman. So I'm not sure how those things were articulated down to the rest of the staff. But in full transparency, he was aware of those changes. Stanley at the time worked on those changes, and there was discussion on the rationale for them. There was never an intent for them to be a one-time expenditure. And that's one of the concerns I have sometimes with the proposed budget that comes before us, is that there's these assumptions of first-time expenditures that are never discussed with those that it's our responsibility to pass the budget, right? So there's an assumption being made without any discussion, because you only know our intention if you ask us, because we're the council. We pass the budget, right? And so I just want to be fully transparent that those numbers were an allocation. I expect that those services are important. We can't talk about increasing and working with DPI and working these agencies and then decreasing their budget in the next breath. It makes no sense. So it's going to be very important that those things are going to be restored in the budget by this council. I also, you know, have some concerns with really what I see as like too much top level spending versus actually seeing a lot of that funding go where I think it should go, where it impacts the residents the most. So when I see like increases in the chairman's office or, you know, requests for raises, but when I see that recreation centers are not open, are able to be open on the weekends, when I see that they have reduced hours, um, I'm concerned if we're spending the money in the right place because these are taxpayer dollars. So I'm just curious if in the budget, was there any thought in increasing the hours for the rec center, increasing them to weekends? Because I see requests for like things that are top heavy, but I feel like it's very important that the things that actually impact the residents, what they're paying tax dollars for, is where we spend the majority of our money.
Sure. Let me just say that I think there has been a comprehensive overview on all of those things as it relates to our parks and recreation services, to our planning and zoning, to the chairman's office. As I go back to the chairman's office, as I've indicated, we have not had an increase in the chairman's office in almost 30 years. So when you start looking at the transparency that we're trying to provide to the residents of Prince George's County, to ensure that we are doing things in a fair and adequate way, I think we are utilizing those dollars that the residents are paying into at a good rate. When you start looking at how we're trying to implement the agriculture program to speed up zoning and permitting, those dollars will be utilized that the county residents are paying for to ensure that we're moving the needle forward. When you look at our parks and recreation services, we're up for our 7th national award simply because of the award-winning services that we're providing. So when you start talking about some recreation centers that may not be open or closing, I would like to know which ones they are so we can then take a more comprehensive look into that, so we can then address those issues. But I think overall, the products and services that Maryland National Capital Park and Planning are providing are top notch.
Yeah, so for example, Suitland Community Center is now open on Sundays. That's important to me. The rec centers that all have after or before care, having their own dedicated buses so that they can pick up the kids so they're not forced to walk. That is a top priority for me because right now they don't. And I hear, you know, the awards have been something that Park and Plan has talked about historically every time that they come before the council. But there's also this reality, like for myself, and I'm sure my colleagues, I know Councilmember Burrows, like we would go to the rec centers when they were doing extended hours for curfews and no kids are there. I would say I do Safe Summers out of my office. And I pay for it out of my small office budget compared to hundreds of millions of dollars that Park and Planning has. And when I said, well, let me support some of your Safe Summer initiatives, I'm like, send me the list. You know, I'll go out, I'll support them. Then half of the list they're not actually doing. So then it's not real. Or I go and no one's there while the programs that I'm running are at capacity out of my office budget. And so that's the disconnect, because there's things on paper that are not actual, like I'm not seeing them when I actually go to the rec centers, or I have my seniors complaining because they cut the budget so they don't have senior field trips anymore, that they have to pay for them. So now I'm hosting senior field trips out of my office budget, or with grants when it should be coming out of the budgets for Park and Planning. So I've rec department leaders saying they can't have money for a microphone in some of their rec centers. So because I've gone there and I'm like, can I use a microphone for my meeting? And there is not one. So I have concerns about that. And so when I see a budget, I believe that is, and this is not just this budget cycle. If we go back and look at how much we spent on this building that we're still spending money on, that came out of the rec fund at what, $55 million? And also came out of was it the admin fund and park fund, or was it just the rec fund and park fund? That, what, $190 million?
I think some of the, Ms. Charles, correct me, but I think some of the funding came out of the admin fund and the park, all in rec fund.
All three tax
All
supported
three.
funds
Thank
Okay.
that support the effort.
Okay, so I'll just end with this, and this is not a question but a statement. I think it's really important that we are mindful. Like, I think that our budget shows us what we value, right, in any government. And my concern is historically, I feel like what the budget being proposed or asked for or advocated for by Park and Plan has historically been about vanity projects, like a $195 million building that they've come and asked for money 3 more times for. It's been about top level positions, like increasing office of chairman and things of that nature. But the simple things, like rec centers that are open 7 days a week, like having free swimming classes, because we know that predominantly is an issue for Black and brown children, especially the kids on the spectrum drowning, but none of them are free. When it looks at senior services, like having free field trips for our seniors, when it looks like having transportation and buses so that they can get to and from school for after and before care. There's not been one time in the 3 years I've sat in this seat that was something that was asked of, that was advocated for, to increase, not once. And so the changes that we are going to make to this budget, because we are going to make more changes than I think have historically had been seen in a budget, are going to be those that reflect making sure that the money actually goes to serve the residents of the county. Because I think for too long, the council has let the proposed budget come forward and made minor changes to it. But I'm asking my colleagues to really look at the things that you're trying to do, the things that you feel like are missing, and let's work strategically to make sure that it actually aligns with benefiting the residents of Prince George's County, and especially the communities that have been constantly underserved. So thank you, Chair.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
All right.
You can.
One, I'd like to bring up someone from the Parks Department to speak to some of the things that you had talked about for services. Right from the Parks thing. And then two, I just wanted to say that the reason why we met with each one of you all individually for an extensive period of time was to go over just this, some of the concerns, the transparency, the wants, dreams, and desires that we have on our side to implement a budget that makes sense for everyone. At the end of the day, I think what you're speaking about is a concern for me. As I've said 1,000 times, FY27 budget is my budget. I can't control FY26 or 25 or 24 budget because those things were in place before I got here. So as we move forward, I think that we have been as methodical as we possibly can to ensure that we're moving the needle forward as it relates to Parks and Recreation and our planning department, and more importantly, out of the chairman's office. As it relates to the chairman's office, I think the slide represented the fact that I've had over 500 meetings since I've gotten here, that 200 plus engagements in the community since I've gotten here. That's more meetings and engagements than any other chairman in the history of park and planning. When you start looking at the increase in zoning and permitting, we have put together a plan to address those things in a way that is expanding the county and growing the county in a real thoughtful and methodical way. Everything that we're doing is intentional and designed to grow the county and to grow park and planning, because we can't continue to do things over and over again and expect a different result, because it's not going to happen. We have to infuse new personnel. We have to infuse new ideology. We have to infuse people that's going to bring new ideas and new suggestions. Our Parks Department, I've asked the director and the deputy to come up to speak to some of the things of a missing microphone, buses, and in Suitland in particular, because those things are not only new for me hearing, but I'm sure is a concern if those things are happening. I believe that most of our parks and recreation services are fully staffed and have been doing all the things necessary. And lastly, before I turn the mic over, we are now, with Six Flags leaving, one of the essential summer jobs for youth in the county. Simply because now that Six Flags is not here, we will employ almost 3,000 employees for the summer months, park and planning. So in order to employ those number of young people for the summer, we have to have seasoned veterans part of our staff to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. What we're trying to say is that we are trying to be fiscal responsible and prudent with the dollars that we have to make sure that we're utilizing those funds in a real thoughtful and methodical way for the residents of Prince George's County. And I think this budget displays those things. Are there room for conversations and or negotiations? Absolutely. Are there things that we may not have looked at and things that you guys may not have looked at? Absolutely. But part of this conversation today is to talk those things through. Let's get down and figure out how do we create a win on both sides so we can now provide the services that you all expect and the services that the Prince George's County residents deserve. And more importantly, so that we on this side of the table can actually do our job in a well thought out way. So now that we can work more collaboratively together to move this needle forward. So with that, Director Stanton or Deputy Director Pettiford, you all may proceed.
Yes, sir. Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and other members, Madam Chair, good afternoon. It is an opportunity, one morning rather, for myself and Deputy Pettiford, just to share some of our feedback with regard to some of the things that you raised. Let me start by just saying that we are very much aligned with you with regard to the assessment of what's transpiring within our facilities. Currently, there's not a system-wide organizational assessment of our programs and services. They take place periodically in different segments, and there have been attempts over the years to be able to do so, but in the scale of our organization, it has not been the case. In the most recent, probably I would say 3 months, there's been a major focus for us to be able to prepare for budget alignment, to be able to prepare for programs and things we've done traditionally over the years that have been ongoing, if you will, but it's more because the organization in communities are used to seeing them done. But whether or not they have the participation, whether or not they have the amount of engagement that we want to see, or if communities have shifted, we're not sure about that. So what we've done over the last 3 months to address that is connect with our National Parks and Recreation Association, which is really our guiding force, if you will, the institution that also provides the gold medal in our CALIA CAPRA certification, to make sure that we have a system which is that allows us to do that. So we can, when somebody says, well, the numbers are not here on Saturday afternoon or Friday evening, you know, we can look at across the board at a button and say exactly where those numbers are, what the targets are, and what they should be for that community. In addition to that, we most recently traveled to Boys and Girls Clubs of America's National Conference to look at some of their youth development and after-school programming so that we could also assess the same type of situation. We want to be able to create a tool that we'll have in place this coming fiscal year that assesses those things. So we'll be able to, with emphatically say, yes, that is the case. No, it's not the case. And for us, it'll help us to make those type of budget decisions that you're talking about. The other thing is, so we have right now 19, if you will, park schools. I have 19 facilities out of the 46 community centers that actually do after-school programs, certified after-school program. And in that case, some of those instances, our staff do actually go pick up and use our buses to pick the students up. In other cases, the school system actually has made our sites, designated locations to have those students brought to the school to the centers directly from the school. So there may be instances where they're not being picked up, but there are a significant amount that are. But we will follow up to just, let you know exactly which ones are being picked up and not being picked up, because we wanted to make sure we also addressed and have started to have conversations with the school system regarding those schools that now get out of school at 1:40 p.m. Because we found, just the significant gap in time with parents not having the opportunity to either be there or provide transportation to have a first, second, or third grader walking home from school at 1:40 is just not the safest situation. And so we've been working to do what we can do in our organization to help fill and address that gap. One of the other things that you mentioned was free swimming classes. There are several instances where students are provided with free swimming classes, but there are instances where, and we also have scholarships where we provide through our resource development department to make sure that we cover some of those things. Are there instances where children, could use those swimming classes? Without question, and that is definitely an area that we would like and would support in terms of increasing our funding to be able to provide those things. As it applies to our senior programming, I gotta say that the senior programming is just does a phenomenal job, both in the one-time events, but also in the consistent engagement with regard to our seniors. Our most recent 100 seniors Centurion program, we had 38 seniors that were identified, 2 of 108 years old, but that's just at the high level. On the day-to-day access to those programs, a lot of engagement, a lot of time, and those seniors in most cases are able to do things for free. But we will follow up and look into, additional resources with regard to field trips for seniors and be able to provide that listing as well. And lastly, the issue around the weekend schedule. It's a very good question, right? Friday nights, we have some facilities, part of our Safe Summer program and programming to protect and support our teens in terms of programming, that, centers are open and up until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And on Saturdays, we also have, programs that are open for young people. Sundays, one of the things that has transpired, because we've had this conversation around Sunday openings, has been traditionally us studying the attendance, right? And seeing that in those cases, even with programming and attempts to open on Sundays, we haven't really had the attendance. And so when we looked at our budget and our staffing and where we had the most utilization and engagement in our facilities, Sundays have, kind of dropped off. And so if there are instances where we have a higher level of attendance or engagement from the community that would like to see that, then we would definitely step up and create those opportunities. But this goes back to, again, us assessing it. And just let me be very clear. You raised some very good points, and a lot of things that we had not, we are addressing as we come in the door. But for us to be able to have a consistent system-wide assessment tool, which we will be delivering this coming fiscal year, will help us to be able to deal with those things and make the decisions based on data. Of course, always input from the community as well as the council, but the data will be the major driver because that'll help us to see. And one of the things that we did do, and they're concluding right now, we'll share with you, it won't be done by the end of this month, or potentially, but is a brand study. And in that brand study, we did 8 focus groups, part of the study in the community with community residents in 8 different locations throughout the county. So we could understand who's being served, what programs are being missed, what is it that we're doing and not doing that the community would want to see transpire, and how do we make those connections to those various age groups, because of course we serve infants to centurions. So I appreciate the opportunity to continue to have the conversation about what it takes and what it looks like so that we, can ultimately make sure we get it right.
Yeah, and I'll just add this. I appreciate that now there's going to be this assessment done around what's working or what's not working moving forward. But I just want to make sure that this point is made clear for where we are going to be in this budget cycle. That the decision on the programming and where we land and how we utilize the money is going to be made when this budget is passed. And so it will be made by the council members. And then there's an accountability for executing that. And I think there's historically has been some challenge with Park and Plan executing the budget that's passed. And I really expect that to change moving forward, because there has to be a trust that once a budget's passed and the community has advocated, asked, and then been promised things, that they're actually delivered on. And that is not what's been happening. And even in this FY26 budget, by the leadership, it did not happen. And so I think there's a tension point, because there maybe is a want to think that you guys are a separate entity that's not accountable to anyone. But that is just not how this works. You're accountable to this body, and this body is accountable to the people that elect us to serve. Just like every agency, they propose a budget, it is passed, and it needs to be executed on. It's not disrespecting me, it's disrespecting the residents, and it's disrespecting their tax dollars. Because it's not my money, it's not your money, it's our money for those that actually live here in Prince George's County. So that is the expectation. This budget will be different. It will reflect the things that I'm talking about. I think the directors do an amazing job at these rec centers. I think they're woefully under-resourced, and they're begging for additional dollars. That will not be happening in this budget. I think they do an amazing job with a little bit of money. So they will be getting the money that they need to execute the services for the residents of Prince George's County. So thank you. Thank you. Do my colleagues have any other questions? If not, thank you so much. All right. Okay. And looking at is the end of our agenda here.
Move we adjourn?
We have a motion. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All ayes. We are adjourned.